Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. And today I'm going to be talking about where I think the election is going to be headed in 2024 and kind of explaining the difference between this video as well as my Friday weekly election prediction update videos. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. And so pretty much, guys, my Friday videos, we use my model to kind of look at the electoral map and kind of see where the election is and where I think the election would be. Like, if we were to hold the election right now, what would it look like today? Like, what would the election look like today? And you notice I'm not going to pull up the model in this video because that's not what I'm going to use to fill out the electoral map here. We're going to be using my political instinct. We're going to be looking at polling data, and we're going to be looking at the last election results, and we're going to be talking about the previous cycles to show how much polling has fluctuated. Now, again, Trump's consistently led in the five-way aggregate since my birthday, actually, November 15th. He's been leading since my birthday, and he's still leading. He almost lost the lead, but he's in fact still leading in the national popular vote. In the two-way race, he has also been leading the national popular vote for a long time. Again, he almost lost it here. He's kind of going back up now. He's polling at 46%, which is almost what he got in 2020. Biden has not polled above Trump in the aggregate, coincidentally, since September 11th. Ever since then, Trump has just been ever so slightly ahead or really ahead in the aggregate. There was even a point where Trump was leading the aggregate by 4.3% in the head-to-head matchup. That was his biggest lead for quite a while, and his leads got reduced for like a long time. I even think there was a point here where they actually tied for a couple days in October, and then that was it, and Trump kind of just ended up overtaking the lead after that. And so Trump has maintained the lead. However, we'll see here McCain in 2007, late 2007, and even most of 2008, they were pretty competitive in polling. And this is the aggregate, kind of putting all the polls together, sort of like RCP. And this is where you could see it track over time. McCain didn't stop being competitive in the aggregate until like September of 2008, right before the election. There was even a point where McCain got close to overtaking Obama in the aggregate multiple times. Even here, it wasn't really until the very end of October that people started seeing that McCain was basically cooked. Even if you look here, there's certain polls like Gallup, McCain almost caught up in October, multiple times. For example, Rasmussen had the race relatively close. It's a right-wing pollster. You could see in August, even September slash August, they were actually tied nationally. Reuters had McCain catching up in October. There was even a point that CBS had McCain ahead by probably 2 points or something like that. And that's actually the percentage of the vote he ended up getting on election day. USA Gallup actually had McCain up in the aggregate on September. ABC Washington Post had McCain up in September. So McCain kind of had a surge in, September, October a little bit, and then kind of fell off, a little bit after that. I just think that's really interesting that that happened. If you look at 2012, we'll see that Mitt Romney overtook polling leads, in October on average, but Obama was able to kind of overtake that national lead and actually ended up outperforming by, I believe, like almost 3 points. He ended up winning the national popular vote by like almost 4, and he ended up only leading the aggregate by 0.7 on election day, and ended up doing a lot better than this. So right around a 3 point in favor of Obama. And if you look at Trump, he was down in the aggregate by 538 by 7.2, down from 270 win by 8, and 538 was an 8.4% margin. The average 7.9, and the actual result was 4.9. So that's basically almost a 4 point over, estimation for Biden. And so it seems like, there is, there's been major polling misses. There's been, here it was interesting because Biden led Trump consistently, except for like, or Biden led Trump consistently, except for Spry Strategies, and Rasmussen had two polls with him ahead in October, I believe. But that's it. That's literally all Wikipedia has since like September, which is usually where the actual real election cycle really begins to start. And that's usually where everything really starts to kick in for real. That's like official, election season time. And so it is pretty bad, that, that people are kind of jumping to the conclusion that Trump's automatically going to win. And I've been on the record saying, like, yeah, he's obviously the clear favorite right now. I mean, if you look at the aggregate, he's ahead by 1.2%, which he's never led the aggregate this much for this amount of time. Biden's approval rating is actually getting worse. He's actually below 40% once again, and it's now minus 17.1%, which is very, very low. And so my model is going to be even more harsh on him because he's going to lose more and more ground with voters in the states that are really, really close, where are decided by a couple thousand votes. My model may change a couple of these results because he's dropped a net like 2.5% in the last like 2 days or something like that. Like something crazy. Like he's dropped like almost 3 points in the average. Maybe not three, but I'd say at least 2 points in the average. So that's also not a good sign for him either. And he's trending downward heading to the election, and he's sitting at 39%. And if Trump is sitting at around, 40 something percent, 44, 45, and approval ratings tend to be a good guesstimator of where the percentage of the popular vote each candidate's going to get. As of right now, I expect Biden to probably get 43, 44%. Trump probably gets 46, 47. So that basically puts my radar on a plus 2 to 3 like environment for Trump, essentially. And that puts Trump ahead 2 or 3 points in the popular vote. And if we were to fill this electoral map out, you're going to see this is Biden plus 4.5, and Biden was barely able to win in Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia that last election. So if Trump's ahead by 2 or 3, that's not going to be a good sign for Biden. And this is me projecting into the future, kind of, because I'd expect that Biden's approval rating probably recovers and stuff like that. So let's say, even to be nice to Biden, let's say Trump wins the popular vote by 1, because I have a weird feeling that he's probably going to end up eking out the popular vote just because Biden's approval rating has dipped so much since then. And I really don't think there's any viable metric for Biden to be able to kind of recover that. I mean, he has all the issues going against him. He's disapproved on every major issue. The optics for him being old don't look good. And so I think it's just not going to be a good look for him whatsoever. And I think, for the safe Republican states, more than likely, you're going to see here that, Trump probably ends up winning these pretty easily. South Carolina's over a 10-point win. Alaska, Nebraska's first. Nebraska at large are going to be safe. Maine's second would be safe, including Maine's first. I'd suspect, California, Oregon, Washington to probably end up being safe states. I don't think they're going to vote below 10 points. I don't think Colorado is going to be competitive. I mean, it is going to be competitive in the sense that it's going to be below 10, but not, below 5. I think it'll be like a 9-point win for Biden. I think Trump will make gains from 2020, just like he will probably in every single state. I think Hawaii's still going to be above 10 points. Same thing for, a lot of these Rust Belt states, or excuse me, the northeastern states. I think that Biden's going to perform just fine here. I think he'll win all of these by over 10. However, I think New Jersey will be the closest one. I think that one is going to be, almost a likely margin. And this is me projecting into the future, into November. So if Trump's ahead in the popular vote by 1 and all the things maintain, I think this will probably end up being the election. Iowa would be safe. I think it probably ends up voting for Trump by 12 on that day. I think Ohio would be, you see, Ohio's interesting because I think it would be safe, but I think it's probably like slightly over a 10-point victory for Trump. That's kind of what I'm thinking it is right now, I think Florida would be like an 8-point win for Trump. I think Texas would probably be like a 7-point win. Trump would improve in the southern border areas and improve in some of the city areas, but I think that some areas would still trend to the left a little bit. Florida, I think, would trend massively to the right compared to 2020. Illinois, I think is going to be safe, including New York. I think they will be under 20. Well, New York would be under 20. I think it's probably going to end up being like a 15-point win, 16-point win for Biden, forecasting it to the future. Same thing for Illinois. As of right now, it would probably end up being a safe state, probably like a 13-point win for Biden, possibly a 12-point win. I think he's going to lose a lot of ground with African American voters, but I think he's still going to win them pretty easily. I think Virginia, is a state that is going to be closer, than 2020, but I don't think it's going to vote below what it voted in 2024. And if we look at New Mexico, same thing goes here. A lot of people think that it's going to be really, really competitive, going into the future, but I can't see it getting below 5. I would be very surprised if it gets below 5, but I'm not exactly sure. And guys, you got to understand my logic here. I know this is looking like the 2020 map, sort of, but I'm expecting third-party vote shares, in polling to kind of go down by the time we do actually get to the election, just because I feel like both sides are going to start energizing their bases. And I think that by the time that happens, a lot of the third-party support's going to kind of come back to Biden. Now, a lot of it will stay with the third parties. I think third parties will probably combine for like over 5% of the popular vote, probably like 8 or 9%. I think RFK maybe gets like 7 of that, and then the rest go to Cornell and Jill, or he'll probably get like 6, 7, 8%. That's probably what I'm thinking it's going to be, give or take. I think North Carolina is going to be a lean Republican state. I think he probably ends up winning it by a similar margin to his 2016 victory. He did win it by 3.7% in 2016, and he only won it by 1.3 in 2020. And the state technically trended to the right compared to Georgia. Georgia voted significantly to the left than what it did in 2016, but I think it is going to be a lean state. Now, with Georgia and a large third party vote share, because honestly, if you were to add up the third party votes, here, what's actually quite funny is that, first of all, North Carolina would have been a lot closer. And Georgia would have been like a 2-point win essentially. So they're really not that far off from each other, but I'm gonna say that Trump would probably win Georgia by like 1.3%, maybe 1.4. That's like what I'm thinking he's gonna end up eking out in Georgia. That's like kind of my guess as of right now. Like if I had to think what's gonna happen on November 5th, not what's gonna happen if the election was held today, he probably ends up winning Georgia by 1.4%. And this would kind of be my logic in terms of like betting money on the election. This is probably what I would be putting down. If I had to bet money on the election, this is probably what I'd be putting down. If we go to New Hampshire, I'd say you see, this one's tricky because it may stay above 5. It may stay above 5, but I think it might be just below that. It's probably like a 4.5 percentage point victory for Biden. Maine is difficult. I think with a third-party vote share, no matter what, it falls below 5, but I think it'll vote in line with New Hampshire. I think Nebraska is second, but falls below 5 points, give or take. I think Minnesota definitely falls below 5. I think it'll be like a 2 to 3-point win for Biden. That puts him at 226, and we have a similar map to 2020. Now, Trump's already at 251, and we might as well give him a state that I think he'll win. I think he'll probably win Pennsylvania. I think, he lost it in 2020 by like 1.2%, but I think he might be able to pull it off because Biden's approval rating is just net lower, way too much for him to hold on to a state like that. And I can't see it happening. Even states that, Georgia, Trump won by 5, he was able to lose. So theoretically, using this logic, he could have lost North Carolina, he could have lost Florida, he could have lost, a lot of these states. He could have lost Arizona, which he ended up did losing it. But at the end of the day, I think that based out of this map, I think Pennsylvania is going to be too tough of a hold for Biden, especially since, his approval rating has fallen. The thing with Trump is that it would have been, if I would have been doing this commentary, that many years back, the thing with Trump is that his approval rating on election day was 37% in 2016. His approval rating on election day in 2020 was 46%, but Biden's approval rating was a lot higher than Hillary's was. So I would have been working with a similar map. Like, I couldn't have said to you guys, oh, Trump's DOA in Pennsylvania, because it wouldn't have made sense because his approval rating went up like 7% from 2016. Biden's went up roughly the same amount compared to Hillary. So it was really anybody's game. But I think with Trump, he's the favorite to win Pennsylvania because Trump has basically lost, like, what? Right now he's at a 44% approval rating on RCP. He's lost like 2 points in favorability compared to 2020. But Biden has dropped from like 53, even a high of like 56% on RCP, and he's dropped all the way below 40. So he's net loss like 15 points in approval. So I can't see him holding on to Pennsylvania. I think he loses Wisconsin by a couple points. And if we look at Arizona, the thing with Arizona is that even though it's very left trending, I still think Trump probably takes it by like a point because, again, Biden's approval rating is just way too low. In Nevada, I think he probably ends up taking Nevada by like a point and a half or so. And Michigan would be probably close, but I think Trump ends up taking that as well. And I think this is probably, if I had to bet money on the election, this would probably be the map that I would put down for all the margins as of right now. So Trump, again, 312, to 226. This would be, if I had to bet money on the elections, this is probably what I'd be putting down. And so if you guys really like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And I hope to see you guys very, very soon.